Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and obviously as soon as I start sitting down to film, the construction work outside my window starts. I closed the windows now, but if you can still hear it in the background, I am very sorry, and if I start being very shiny, it's because the windows are closed and it's still too fucking hot in Vienna, especially in my room. But anyway, what are we doing today? Today is a yearly type video, although I actually think, if I remember correctly, that I did not film this video last year. But today we're doing the mid-year book Freakout tag. Since this is quite an old tag, I don't exactly remember who created this tag. If I can still find it, then I will of course leave the original creator down in the description box. But aside from that, we have 13 questions to get through, so let's get started. And the first question that we have is the best book you've read so far in 2023. And I have to be honest, my reading this year so far has not been amazing. Like, I am at about a 3.6 star average for all the books that I've read this year. That is including my rereads of the books that I've read this year so far, which are I think 51 books as I'm filming this video. I only have 6 5-star reads, and 2 of those were rereads. So I only have 4 5-star reads from books that I read for the first time this year. And yeah, that's not great. That's like, I mean, I guess it's almost a 10% average, but it's not amazing. Of the books that I gave 5 stars to, I gave them 5 stars for very different reasons. But of those books, the one that I would give the title of Best Book of 2023 so far to is The Lies of the Achungo by Moses Oza Utomi, which is the first book or the first novella in a series of novellas, all kind of set in the same world and following different peoples in this world as far as I have understood it so far. I do not want to tell you too much about the story, but basically it's about the city that has no water, and the city is known as the City of Lies, and every year young men go out as heroes trying to find water for the city. And this first novella is about such a young man who, you know, goes out and tries to find water for his city. And the reason why I would give this the 5-star title is because, first of all, I absolutely love the writing, and I am personally not someone who loves novellas. I say that almost every time that I talk about novellas, that usually novellas just don't give me the depth that I specifically prefer in a story, which, you know, is very obvious. A novella has less pages, has less words, so you have to choose very carefully which facets of a story you want to focus on. And I just prefer longer books that have more space to expand the world, expand the characters, etc. However, within this story, there was like such depth to it in terms of allegories and metaphors, in terms of world building, in terms of character building, and I just loved this story so much. I still haven't got it in physical form. I read it as an ARC originally. I need to get it physically at some point, but I absolutely adored this story, and it, even with just 80 pages, it almost got me to cry, and I definitely would have cried at the end of the story if I had been at home and not been reading it on public transport and trying very hard to hold back tears. So I just teared up, but yeah, absolutely loved it. Definitely deserves the Best Book of 2023 title so far. Then the next question is the best sequel I've read so far in 2023, and since there is only one sequel that I gave 5 stars to, I obviously have to talk about this one, and that is Heart of the Sun Warrior by Su Lin Ten, which is the sequel to Daughter of the Moon Goddess and the second book in the Celestial Kingdom duology, and since it's a duology, obviously also the finale. I already enjoyed Daughter of the Moon Goddess, I think last year I read it, at the beginning of last year, and I gave it 4 stars back then. I do have a full review of the duology, so I will leave that link down below if you're interested. But basically this series is a duology, an adult fantasy duology with some crossover appeal for a YA audience that is loosely inspired by Chinese mythology, more specifically the legend of Chang'e, who is the moon goddess. And within the story we follow the daughter of Chang'e, so the daughter of the moon goddess. I am very sorry, I'm probably pronouncing the names terribly, but I'm doing my best. Anyway, so we follow her daughter, and the moon goddess is exiled to the moon. She's not allowed to leave the moon, except one day something happens and her daughter has to flee, and so she sets herself the mission that she's going to free her mom from her exile. And yeah, I just enjoyed the first book already, as I said, and the second book just scratched an itch. I don't know what it is. It was just exactly what I needed at the point in my life that I'm currently, and it just gave me exactly the same feelings that I had from reading books like The Mortal Instruments or, you know, YA high fantasy when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. Just, you know, 10 years later now. And I just loved it, and I bawled through the last 100 pages. Like, I was crying so much. So you will see this book again with another question on this list, but yeah, I just enjoyed it, so I have to give it the best sequel title so far. Question number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. And for this one, I have actually multiple new releases. I only just came back from the bookstore and got Yellowface. Obviously, I have to read this. I am so excited for it. I was also this week actually talking to a colleague of mine at work who only recently finished this and really enjoyed it. And I know that there's some mixed thoughts about this story out there, but that's pretty much the case for any R.F. Kuang book. And yeah, I'm very interested to see her foray into literary fiction rather than fantasy. And it's also, like, it's 300 pages long. It's pretty short. We'll see when I'll get to it, because for the next week I am actually on vacation. Another book that I haven't read yet is The Queen's Price by Anne Bishop, which is the 12th book in the Black Jewel series. I don't know why I haven't started this one yet. I think I'm just nervous because obviously the Black Jewels, while I don't call it my favorite series of all time anymore, it has had the title, or it had that title, used to have the title for a very long time. So reading any new book in the series always makes me pretty nervous because, I don't know, I'm scared of the feelings that I'll have. And the last book ended pretty, like, badly. Not badly as in it was a bad story, but badly for some of the characters. And so yeah, now I'm hesitant to pick up this one. And then the last new release that I haven't gotten to yet, but that I absolutely have to get to, is Warrior Girl Unearthed. This one is a YA standalone thriller. I loved Firekeeper's Daughter in 2021 when I read it. It was one of my favorite books of that year. This book is by the same author. It's by Angeline Boulley. It's an indigenous YA thriller. And this is a story that centers the restitution and the repatriation of human remains from museums. And that whole debate, which is a debate that I am very interested in, and that it just annoys me how much this debate is often simplified in the general discourse, because there's just so many elements to this debate. So aside from the fact that I was already hyped for this book because it's by an author where I previously gave a book 5 stars to, and I'm already scared that it won't live up to that hype, it also follows, like, pretty much one of my hyperfixations, and I'm really scared that I won't enjoy it because of that, because I will end up being nitpicky, which is crazy to say, obviously, because, you know, this book is written by someone who is much more directly, you know, has skin in the game when it comes to repatriation. And also, I don't know that much about repatriation in the US and North American context, because their repatriation works, or restitution works differently, because the legality is just different, because it's about returning things but within the same country, which obviously isn't the case for a lot of European museums. But anyway, before I get too much into that, I'm just dragging my feet on this one because it's my second most anticipated release of the year, and I just don't want to be disappointed. That's the long story short, pretty much. Question number 4 is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I did just upload a full video of all my anticipated releases for the second half of the year, so I will leave the link down below and up there. But to just very quickly answer this question, it's Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick. I actually did just start that book, the arc of the book. It comes out in the middle, I think on the 17th of August. It's the third and last book in the Rook and Rose series, and it's a very similar case to this one as well, that I was dragging my feet and starting the arc for 2 whole days after finishing my reread of the second book. But obviously, since it's an arc, I have more incentive to actually get started on it, because I still need to read it before it comes out. But yeah, that's my most anticipated release for the second half of 2023. Question number 5 is the biggest disappointment. And for that, I have like 2 different books. One book that I actually was really excited for, and one book where it's more like a disappointed but not surprised. My disappointed but not surprised thing is The 11th Cycle by Kian and Ardlan. I uploaded a full 1-hour rant review on this one, so I will just leave the link down below and not talk about this anymore. But basically, aside from the fact that I didn't overly enjoy the writing and the plotting and the characters, there were just some very specific things that very much enraged me within the story. So yeah, that's disappointment number 1. And the second one I also do have a review of this, or should have a review of this, is The Daughters of Istihar by Hadir El-Spy. This one should have been right up my alley. It's queer, non-Western inspired fantasy. It's Egyptian inspired fantasy, and it's adult fantasy, and it just should have been right up my alley. It's also very feminist, or supposedly very feminist. You follow a kind of suffrage movement within this world. However, overall, I thought it was really badly written. I thought the plotting was really terrible, and I thought the complexity of the story just was not there. And so yeah, I ended up giving it, I think, 2 stars, and was really disappointed by this one. Then number 6 is the biggest surprise, and since I picked 2 disappointments, I'm also gonna pick 2 surprises. First, I have The Forever Sea by Joshua Philip Johnson. This one I mainly picked up because the concept of the world sounded kind of interesting, because you have this huge prairie of grass that's just meters upon hundreds of meters deep, and above this prairie you have ships flying, and that just sounded really interesting to me. And the second reason I picked it up was because look at this cover. So I went into this pretty much not knowing anything about it. I was then surprised to learn that it was queer. So our main character is sapphic, and we follow this main character as she is on the search for her grandmother, who disappeared sometime before the start of this book. The reason why I was so surprised by this one is that I picked it up, I didn't expect that much, and it ended up being a 5-star. Like, I expected to enjoy it. I don't pick up books that I don't end up expecting to enjoy, but I didn't think it would be 5 stars for me. And this was also the first book that I read in the year, and yeah, so I just really enjoyed it, was really surprised by that. And so yeah, that's my first surprise. And the second surprise I had was The Witch King by Martha Wells. This is the first Martha Wells book that I have read. So far, I haven't read the Murderbot series or anything like that, and the reason why this one was a surprise was because I just, you know, I requested an arc on a whim. I got the arc. I didn't really know that much of it once again. This one follows Kai, who is a demon who years upon years ago got the title of Witch King, and at the beginning of this story he wakes up in prison together with his best friend, and so the two of them try to escape, try to find out who imprisoned them, and also try to find the wife of the best friend. And that story is interspersed with chapters detailing the past of Kai's life and how he got the title of the Witch King. And when I started the book, like the first third of the book, I wouldn't say I wasn't feeling it, because I was enjoying it while I was reading it, but whenever I wasn't reading it, I was just forgetting about it. However, by the end, I got so attached to the characters and I just love them so much. I ended up giving this 4.25 stars. And so yeah, that's why I chose this as my second surprise of the year. Question number 7 is my new favorite author, debut or new to me. I can't really say a new favorite author, I have to be honest, because I have a pretty high bar when it comes to new favorite authors. And basically what I have with new favorite authors is that I have to have read at least multiple media by them. So not just multiple books, but for example, if it's an author with a series, I want to have read multiple series, or a series and a standalone by them, something in multiple worlds, etc. And so I haven't had any authors this year that went from potentially new favorite authors to favorite authors, but some authors that definitely do have the potential to go there. I mean, I guess I can now count Fonda Lee as one of my favorite authors, because I have now read The Untethered Sky and definitely enjoyed it. So I've read 2 media by her. I've read the Greenbone Saga and now Untethered Sky. Then Moses Oza Utomi is definitely an author that I will now keep my eye on. I'm gonna see how I feel about Martha Wells. I do want to read the Murderbot, or at least the first Murderbot book this year, and then I also have an arc of a republication of hers, so we'll see how I'll feel about that, and I think that's enough already, so let's move on to the next question, which is the newest fictional crush. I don't have fictional crushes. Like, I just don't have them anymore. So yeah, maybe, what's his name? Although not really. I think Wenji was his name, but no, there's no new fictional crushes. I love Grey from the Rook and Rose series, but Grey already was a fictional crush. That was like the latest new fictional crush that I got, but can't think of anyone. Newest favorite character, maybe I am cheating with this one, but because I haven't finished the book yet, I've only started it, but Imri or Imriel from the Kushiel's Legacy series, the second trilogy, which is Imriel's trilogy, the main character, definitely has already grown on me so much. I mean, we obviously see some of him in the first trilogy in the Kushiel's Legacy series. We see some of him in Phaedra's trilogy. However, in this one, he's the main character, and his just hurt little heart already has grown so close to me, and I would do anything for him. I love him. Book that made me cry. The book that made me cry the most so far this year is definitely Heart of the Sun Warrior. As I said, I bawled through the last 100 pages. I was just... But this one, so Kushiel Skian, I don't know how I'll feel by the end of it, but this one so far, it hasn't made me cry, but it has already made me tear up multiple times. And I pretty much constantly have that pressure behind the eyes of, you know, almost starting to cry. Next, I have a book that made me happy, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go with rereads on this one, but my rereads of The Mask of Mirror and The Lie Is Not made me so incredibly happy. I loved these books so much, and as you can see, I'm tabbing them pretty heavily, but yeah, these books, my reread of them just filled my heart with so much joy. So next I have the most beautiful book I bought so far this year, and I think that one goes to The Sun and the Void, the Illumicrate edition by Gabriela Romero La Cruz. This is like the cover without the dust jacket. I'm like, whatever about the dust jacket, to be honest, but this cover is just absolutely gorgeous, and it has the end pages as well. Sadly, well, I'm not quite done with it. I'm like 100 pages off of the end. I do think this will, if I was done with this already, this would have been at the very top of the question of which books disappointed me the most so far this year. And then the last question is what books I need to read by the end of the year, aside from the anticipated releases that I haven't read yet so far. I definitely have The Speaking Bones by Ken Liu. Alex, who I'm gonna be buddy reading this with, finally finished The Veiled Throne, so we can get started on this in August, probably. And then aside from that, I also still need to finish the second series in the Kushiel's Legacy series, or the second trilogy, Imriel's trilogy, for my read-along, obviously, of the Kushiel's Legacy books, and then also the Nama trilogy. And so we're doing 2 months per book. Currently in July and August we're doing Kushiel's Gian, and then it's gonna be Kushiel's Justice and Kushiel's Mercy in September and October, and November and December respectively. So I still need to do that. If you're interested in joining us, it's all happening in my book club Discord. My book club is of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, and it's all about reading adult high fantasy written by women and genderqueer folks, sometimes just adult fantasy, no high in there. But yeah, the links are down below, so go and check them out. And yes, that was it for my mid-year book Freakout tag. If you have any comments on any of the books that I mentioned, leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, may you think about giving a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media as well as to my book club that I just mentioned are linked down below. So go and check those out, and I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!